So hey, check it out. One of the first things that we're going to start with is the wheel for the fat bike. The reason why this is a special wheel, it's a 24-inch fat bike wheel from HED Cycling. HED was the only high-end manufacturer to say, hey, there's a future in 24-inch wheel fat bikes. There's a whole reason why. We don't need to go into that right now. All you need to know is they are awesome. They are the upgrade that comes stock and standard. Listen to that. Whoa. So now we're going to show you how to put a tire on this wheel. You put one bead on. And then I have to do it this way, otherwise I'm just going to not do it right. So now you have one bead on. Notice you have this nice big gappy area, and what that is for your tube sealant. These are all tubeless wheels. And what the benefit of that is that you can run a tire at lower pressure. It conforms to the to the ground, and conforms, gives you better traction. It's lighter weight, and especially with fat bikes, the lighter weight the tire and wheel, the more fun it is. And that's why these 24-inch HED rims and wheel sets rock. Orange Seal tubeless sealant is pretty good. And don't forget, Orange Seal tubulant, that there's Cake Team Racing, and we're a racing team and need sealant for the winter. 1, 2, 3, 4 ounces. Pour it in like that. You take this and you do just what you did earlier. And you put that rim or that tire on the rim completely. And if you look, you can actually do it, because you can't see it. This is where the magic is. You do it by hand. We're literally going to blow the tire onto the rim. So, you can feel it's already starting to seal. And you can see it, stuff coming out right there. Look how cool that is. And you're going to hear this thing seal, and it's going to make a giant pop. And here it goes. Now, your tire is literally sealed onto the rim. Now that you have this sealant, you can see it right here. So it's starting to come out here. That's literally sealing any little crack or whatever you got, or, minuscule space, like the quantum realm. So now, you do what I call steer the bus. You turn it and you steer the bus. And what are you doing when you steer the bus? All that sealant is going around in there, finding every little crack. And the air pressure is helping it to push the sealant through that little crack, so you have a sealed tire. And then what do? You steer the bus, you go back home when you're steering the bus. And what I do is that I pretend that we hit a bunch of potholes, like you're in Minneapolis highways, and what that's doing is all the sealant is bouncing up, hitting all the nipple holes, if there are any in there, and that sealant seals it. And you have your nice WTB valve core, and if you listen, you can hear the sealant run back down. So boom, ooh, see? Look at that, action shot, wow. That usually comes at the end. But anyways, so you have your sealant, and you prove that it's out there. You put your cap on. Yay, now your tire's on. And we did that with the other one super fast. But now, we got to put some parts on this wheel. All right, so now we got our rotor torqued down to the torque spec. We're going to flip it over, and we're going to do our cassette. And first on our cassette, I like to put a little bit of NFS by Nick's Friction grease on there. Some people don't want to put it on there, but I like putting it on there because this is a fat bike. It's going to be out in the elements and out in the winter, and this is a little bit of preventative stuff. That's okay. Some people don't do it, but you know what? We do, and I like to make sure that when I put these on, we're putting them on kind of one section at a time, and that way I can kind of have oh, hey, yeah, that's nice and fits right on there. So you take these things and you just line them up, put them on, line them up. Look at that. Ooh, how does that one go? Oh, look at that, nice and in there. And we do that again. And that way I know that all these are kind of getting a little bit of that grease on there, a little bit of that love. And that is really, really important to me because, like I said, these are out in adverse conditions. You're out in wet and snow, and you're coming in and out of your house. So you want your cassette removable, or your cassette removal when you go do it to maintain your bike. It's nice and easy, and it's well lubed and well loved. So then you come to your last cog, and you find your little key guide there, and then you go whoop, and now you're on there. And then you take your little tool, and just like before, I go backwards till I hear it click, like that, and then you know you can move forward, and we torque it down, and you're done. Whoop. And now here's our front wheel, all blown up, all sealed up, and then we take off our little head, puts this little protection thing on their hubs when they ship them, so it's nice and clean, and then you just throw that away. And you take your disc rotor, and you put it on, and you put on your wonderful little lock ring. See how I went backwards like that? And then you hand tighten it, and then you go, oh look, our torque wrench is all ready to go. Imagine that. And then you go, oh, click, click, that's good. See how it's, look at Bill's trying to hold on to it. Give me that wheel. All right, let's go put some frame action. Let's get these on a bicycle frame and then zoom away to Dairy Queen. Go. All right, so check it out. Here's the cake frame. And what we're going to do right now is give a quick overview of what these parts are. Starting up here at the head tube, you have an 1.1" head tube. What's good about this is that it is forward compatible and reverse compatible, meaning that there's always going to be parts for your headset and this size head tube standard. Going down to our bottom bracket shell, it's 100 millimeter wide, English threaded, lots of parts, lots of replacement parts, lots of hop-up parts, everything you can imagine of that. These two standards allow you to have a very serviceable bike for very long. Now, back here we have a mix of Columbus tubing, some 4130, and some stuff from Nova, and we take these seat stays that start out straight, and we hand bend them here at Cake Industries headquarters. So we can control how we want this curve to look, to move into that curve and go into this. This gives you ultimate tire clearance, good heel clearance, and great disc and rotor clearance back here. That's important. So then we have it powder coated, a wonderful orange. We call this color orange. You glad we powder coated it? Ah, it's a long term. But anyways, what we're going to do here now is we're going to take our head tube reamer and we're going to ream this head tube into spec. So when we push in our headset, everything is going to fit nice and tight and how it should, properly. So that's what we're going to do. Give it a little bit of lube in there. Take it off my hands. Tighten it up just a hair. As you can see, we just spin it, and it goes down in there, and you're going to see this beautiful, wonderful little paint curl is what we call it. See that little paint curl start to come? Oh, look, there it is. Oh, look, it's a little curly. That sounded really bad. It's a paint curl. Keep it clean. So then we do that. And what this is doing is just taking off the paint, and we're getting a nice, fresh, even metal surface to put your headset on. And when you take this out, you always spin it out. You never spin it backwards. So if you look at that, look at that. Nice, flat surface, ready for your headset. I like to line things what I call stock car style. So basically, I will take and I will turn these to where your little logo, your serial number, is placed to the back. I like the logos to be seen by people riding by or videos or photography or something like that. So you line them up, you get them where you want them, and then you start to push in the headset. And they start going in. Look at that. We did a little aluminum shaving there. And now it starts to go in nice, smooth, and even. This is a nice tool by Park Headset Press. And right when you feel it bottom out, right there, I give it just a little, just like that. And that's all you need. And now you have a wonderfully machined, faced, and chased head tube. Now, what do you call it? In place. Sorry, lack of good terms. But look at that. That looks nice. Now we're ready to put some bearings on and install our fork. So you take your bearings, you do this and that, and then you take your top cap, your top race, pardon me, and look at that. Now you got your head tube in there. Oh, look, it spins and turns, does exactly what it should. Now we put some spacers on there. We're going to leave this to have a lot of spacers, and we're going to put our stem on it. And look at that. Now we're just going to put in our star nut and our top cap assembly, And then we're gonna show you putting in some wheels and cranks and tires. Now is where we use some more of the NFS race grease, because we're gonna put in our bottom bracket and our crank next. I like to really liberally put a lot of grease down here because this is what sees the most action. You got a lot. You're crossing streams and getting rad in the winter. You want a lot of grease in there. Now we're just spinning in our bottom bracket shell by hand, and that's kind of a good sign. If it's nice and tight, you know that you got all your machining tolerances and all of your facing and chasing tolerances. Pretty nice. And since these are goofy reverse, see how this is reverse tightening. It's one of those, I turn it to the left and it gets tighter things. So we go like this, and we wait till we hear that wonderful, oh, there it is. There's that click. Now you're torqued down. And we just do the same on the other side. Click, click. Oh yeah, now it's party time. Look at this. Now we have our race face crank. Got a little bit of grease on there, a little bit of grease on there. We slip it in through here, and we put all of our little spacers on. And now we're gonna take our sweet anodized blue race face chainring direct mount and put it on the direct mount crank. We've greased the spindle a lot, and now I have a wonderful greasy little bolt that we are going to spin to win. And now we use our torque wrench to torque it up. There you go. And you are torqued on. All right, so now we're going to put in the rear wheel. And as you can tell, this goes in nice and easy because we've machined everything and everything is to its tolerance. You put in your nice little QR and everything tightens up and whee! All right, so now we'll put the front one in too. And we do that, put that axle in there, and then you turn it nice and tight. And look at that. Right to there. Woohoo! You can hear your sealant roll around in there. Now that it's a complete rolling chassis, we're going to come in and we're going to put on our rear derailleur, size our chain, put in the handlebar and the controls, and then we're going to put all the zip ties on and the cable housing and make sure it shifts and stops right. It works. We're just adjusting our limit screws, and those limit the derailleur to how far you can have your derailleur be thrown. And what we're doing is just adjusting it so it doesn't go into the spokes or into the dropout. And we look pretty good with that. So now we're going to size the chain and put the chain on. Yep, that's what I wanted. That's what I needed. And I would say that this chain's maybe half a length long, but we're okay. Whenever I'm riding and I hear this wonderful head free hub sound, I think of like an old Spitfire, WW2 Spitfire coming in to get you. It's just a cool sound. Oh yeah! Excuse me while I whip this out. See what I do. So we tighten this stuff up, and now we're going to install the shifter. And look at that. That's a good sign. All that grease. Grease. It means that raceface cares. And then you go, ew, grease. Yeah. Ew, you want some grease? Ugh. And now we're gonna, ooh, and then, oh no, I want to go faster, keep downshifting. And that's how it works. And then you just slide it on. So now we're gonna put this back in the stand. We're gonna put our brakes on, and we're gonna show you how we put the handlebar grips on. And since Dan is a wider rider, we don't have to cut down the handlebar at all. Wonderful ESI grips. And I'm gonna show you a trick of how to get these on. Really easy, but you need an air compressor. here's the trick. You just get that underneath the lip, and enough air pressure goes in there to like kind of break the seal. And it's difficult to get started, but I don't like putting chemicals or, you know, rubbing alcohol or anything like that, because this is a grip. It's called a grip for a reason. It needs to grip so you can grip it. If you grip the grip and it just slips, then you're straight tripping, you know? Got my neener. So anyways, hip hop. There we go, and that's what I like. Nice and easy. And then you take the wonderful ESI bar end plugs, because you don't want to like wipe out and then like get a core sample. So thank you, ESI, who's also a Cake Team Racing sponsor. And you push these in. Oh. So now you don't kill your leg or your knee or your riding buddy when you wipe out because you're so rad. Okay, so now when I do my rear derailleur shift housing, I do what I call from backwards up. I make sure I have enough here. I like down here to have a nice 1-inch straight entry point for the cable. That gives superior shifting and longer lasting shifting. So then you just kind of work your way up the bike. And look at that. Oh, just a couple shades off blue. It's going to look great. And then you come over here and you mount it up to your shifter to what you think would be a good loop. And right there is where I think a good loop is. So I take my finger where it's marked and I give it what I call the fat thumb. So I give it just a little extra 1/2 inch or an inch or so. And then you take your very nice Park tool, cable cutter, housing cutter, and you cut it. And one of the things you want to know is that after you cut this thing, it's a little bit sticky. So I like to keep a nice little pokey thing around. And now we have a great entry port for our cable. We take our housing end and we put that on like that, shove it down nice and hard, and then you take your shifter cable and you put that in there and it goes nice and smooth. You can see that. And so now we shove it all the way down and it'll magically exit down there by the rear derailleur. Now we go all the way up there and make sure that we get in there really nice and easy. There you go. So now we're going to zip tie everything down and we'll show you how it shifts through the gears. Now that we got our housing end in here nice and even, we're going to put our cable in there as we jump around like crazy. Get it nice and tight. I come through the wheel and give it a nice tug. Make sure it's nice and tight, and then we tighten that down. And then I come back here and kink it just a little bit. It's going to rub on our tire for a minute. I want to make sure that we're shifting good before I snip that. So we come back up here, and now we're just going to put a couple of zip ties, 3 of them specifically, on here so I can actually pedal the bike, turn the cranks, and make sure everything works. So I like to run it through the gears before we do any adjustments, which is just like this. Because what that is doing, and there we are running through the gears, they're good. And then we check to see what's the tension of the cable. It could be a little bit tighter. After you put on housing and you shift and you run it up and down the gears a couple times, what you're doing is that you're compressing that housing a little bit. So this housing is going to go more into the housing end. So you might lose like a millimeter. Well, a millimeter when you're shifting up and down 11 gears is a lot. So how you adjust for that is that you have a barrel adjuster. And whenever I set up a bike, I put the barrel adjuster at its inmost position. So when this situation happens, you give it a turn and a half, and your tension back there is now almost perfect. So now we'll shift through the gears, and it is right on the numbers. That is awesome. You have a basically assembled cake bike. You have all your components tweaked and tuned, and what we're going to wait for is when Dan comes in, we'll make sure that he has the right size stem and handlebars, and then we'll make all the corresponding adjustments. Look at how we have really nice arcing lines, so when you turn, they flow really nice, and even if you wipe out, look at that. You're not going to pull your housing out, because that would really suck if you blow your hydraulic brakes out while you're riding. And we put some nice clear pedals on. Woo, woo, look at that. Ooh, they spin so well. So Dan's going to bring his own saddle and a helmet. And we're going to go out for a little test ride action. Woo!
That's hot.
Oh, you're not supposed to touch it.
Oh.
I'm just kidding.
Ah. No wonder you told me to bring a saddle. That's nice. This thing goes to 11.